And welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with apparently Rashad. Oh, so it's Jacob Van Lunen and Rashad Miller now. I'm Rashad Miller
here
in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen, and it looks like players are ready to go. We've got Craig Wescoe facing off against Jason Imperiale. Wow, is that a sleeveless deck on the left-hand side there?
Looks like that is a sleeveless deck.
And I don't think that that is actually Craig Wescoe right there. Oh. There we go. That is a Craig Wescoe on the left hand. He is off to a quick start with the Gorehouse Chainwalker to start things off. A Dagger Drone Imp is going to help stem the bleeding for his opponent. But let's see if there's a 3-drop play to follow up. That would be pretty nice here. It looks like a Fire Fist Striker, though, is a 2-drop of choice here for Craig Wescoe instead.
So he's battling against J Imperiale.
Yep. All right, here's an attack with the Dagger Drone Imp. So that's going to help, again, stem the bleeding, but this needs to be a nice stabilizer here, at least something they can trade. Oh, that's a very good one. Sewer Shambler, that can trade with either of these two creatures, and it can even get scavenged onto the Imp to make racing much more difficult for Craig Wescoe.
It's a really nice follow-up to that Imp, because if it gets to trade off, then Craig's going to be facing down a 3-power lifelinker, and
he
no
pretty
good.
much must find an answer or develop his board in a really significant manner. And it looks like Craig is going to have to put the brakes on a bit here. He's going to play the Keening Apparition and just ship the turn back. Yeah, that's exactly what he does. He wants to make sure that he can use the battalion ability from the Fire Fist Striker to his benefit here. And there's another attack from Jason with the Dagger Drone Imp and a 4-drop to follow up. And it's a Rune Wing, one of the most annoying cards you can see on the other side of the table if you're in Craig Wescoe's seat. You just hate giving him that value.
Yeah, I mean, when he attacks, he's got to start attacking. Otherwise, you know, I mean, he's the aggressive Burrows deck. He's just going to get outclassed.
Well, now here's a 4-mana spell. Oh, there's a good one that'll help.
That is a very good one.
All right, so these two are going to be detained, preventing them from attacking next turn, and it also means that the Fire Fist Striker can nullify the blocks of the Sewer Shambler, and 7 damage is going to come crashing down on Jason. He also can't attack in the air this turn with his 2 flyers.
Yeah, Justiciar is just such a strong card.
Thanks to the Justiciar. So let's see what he's got as a follow-up play here. He just needs to get bodies on the table, and this is not going to do it. That's a Pilfered Plans. Not a bad card, but really wants to commit things to the board state here. I believe he drew a Devour Flesh there, though, and I know he's got another land in hand.
Yeah, not the worst thing he could draw here.
It could certainly help out. All right, we see Jason is planning out how he wants his next few turns to go. Is that a... It's not a far and away, is it?
I don't know. I saw a split card. I thought it was actually a give-take, so he may be
I thought it was give-take
looking for green mana and just not have it.
All right, he's got a Death's Approach to
which
take
works
down the
pretty nice to that
Fist
Pilfered
Striker.
Plans.
Wow, that works really,
you know, for somebody
well
who hasn't played Magic in forever, Jay is pretty impressive at creating synergy in his decks. I mean,
yeah, he did manage to mill 2 creatures as well with that Pilfered Plan, so that turned that Death's Approach on in a nice way and took out really Craig Wescoe's key creature here. Now Jason's fully stabilized in many ways. You know, it can change in a heartbeat, but as the board sits, he looks to be in pretty good shape, and he's just trying to decide if he wants to send in an attacker of any type here.
And Craig has a...
what is it, a War Leader's Helix or something?
I don't know. I don't know if we've seen his hand. Oh, he has Rebel Maka and Steeple Rock.
And another Skyjack?
Is that a Skyjack, or
I'm
is
not
that...
sure.
Angelic Edict, maybe?
Yeah, could be. All right, there it is, Robobelt Maka. And he just says go. Yeah, I think it's an Angelic Edict.
Please meet your judge at the side event gathering place. Again, that is...
Ooh, he can just Baneslayer up.
Your event is ready.
It's definitely the play to make here.
Yeah, while your opponent's tapped out.
Oh, yeah.
Make a 4/4 flying lifelink and get in there.
Maybe not, though. I mean,
oh, no, but he doesn't have green.
I think he just drew the farce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he can pilfered plans first here.
The one issue, I mean, he doesn't know Craig has the Angelic Edict, but that's definitely going to be a problem for him.
Yeah.
He's going to get...
All right, make a huge lifelinking flyer here. And in it goes. 4/4 flying lifelink. Can't be blocked here.
Yeah,
And it's going to represent an 8-point life swing. And even if it dies now,
it already
still
did some
not
good
too
work.
bad. Yeah, did some
And
work.
it's like it's kind of nice that even if Craig uses his removal spell on the dagger turnip, he's not using his removal spell on either of Jay's blockers.
Especially
so Jay has
this
really good
particular
blocks.
removal spell, as it does exile the creature. And, you know, getting that Sewer Shambler out of there and having no...
Yeah, and
you know,
or the Rune Wing. Like, it's
yeah,
a card
or
that
the
interacts
Rune Wing.
favorably against
Yes.
Sewer Shambler and Rune Wing, and yet
Exactly.
he's going to be forced to use it on the other creature,
Yeah,
which is the tapped one.
that's right. All right, but first things first, attack with everybody. Craig Wescoe says, I've had enough.
Yeah, so we can expect Sewer Shambler and Rune Wing to both attempt trading.
All right, block, block. So a couple of, you got to say, favorable trades there for Jason, but Craig does need to get this board cleared out. Here's a draw step.
Jay's going to draw a card from that Rune Wing.
Draw a card for Jay. Well, he didn't. Did he forget? Or did we just not see him draw it? I didn't see him draw it, did
I didn't
you?
see him draw it either.
Hmm.
Oof.
I don't know if he just missed it or maybe I did, but I did not see him draw a card there.
Oh, no, he did. He didn't have the Death Cult Rogue or that Swamp in his hand last turn.
He
so
didn't? Okay.
I don't think he did.
I must have just missed it then. Although remember last turn he did pilfered plans.
That's true. So maybe I just didn't see it after the draw step.
I'm really not sure, but we'll just have to continue on because it's too late for him to draw that card if he hadn't, and if he did, well, then he's got it in his hand. So here's a Death Cult Rogue for Jay, and he just passes the turn back, so it looks like he wants to use the Devour Flesh here.
Ooh,
wow,
this
a
is really
Notion
good.
Thief at
Yeah,
instant speed here.
And this is really nice because... Oh, I'm surprised he doesn't block both.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought he might want to block both, because it makes his Devour Flesh a little bit worse, especially now that there's a Steeple Rock down.
Yeah.
It was nice to use that Notion Thief as a removal spell, though.
Ooh, it looks like he just drew Consuming Aberration.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw, too.
That's a pretty good one.
That's
big,
an
scary
understatement.
monster.
So remember, he's traded off a bunch of creatures, and he's also pilfered plans twice, targeting his opponent. So it's already going to be a 7/7 or an 8/8 or something like that. All right, let's see what Jay has in mind here. He can cast Consuming Aberration, and he can have Devour Flesh up
open
as well. Yeah.
I think that's got to be where you want to be.
There it is. Let's get a count on Craig Wescoe's graveyard here and see if we can figure out how big that thing is.
It's pretty big. I mean, there have been 2 Pilfered Plans cast.
Yeah.
Then Death's Broach killed something. A bunch of creatures
Yeah,
have
I think it's
traded.
7 or 8, maybe even more.
I think it's 9. Because there's the Edict, too.
Did they say how big it was, Rusty?
Sorry. Did I sneeze on you?
No. All right. So here's the Devour Flesh, and there's a trigger from the Consuming Aberration that's going to target Craig. So he's going to do, we call it grinding for short. He's going to mill cards off the top of his library until he hits a land, and it happens to be the first one there. All right, so that just this year looks like it's going to hit the bin here. That is going to increase the size of that consuming aberration. Again, Craig's going to gain a life or two. And Jay is going to look to close the door on this game as quickly as possible here.
Yeah, it looks like he's got enough spells.
No,
Where
he
can
didn't
kinda
attack with
just-
that Death Cult Rogue last time. Not sure why.
Well, I mean, it held the Justiciar at bay in case there was another removal spell coming down in the aberration, and that would put Jay down to in burn range, like in range of explosive impact and things like that. So he just wanted to stay out of range for that.
But wasn't it just going to die to the Devour Flesh anyway? The Justiciar?
Well, he doesn't know yet if he's going to
Okay.
use that or if there's going to be.
Okay.
You know.
I mean, it seemed like his plan, he only had the 2 mana up. Okay, but he does manage to finish off the game, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there are any number of, strange and or bad attacks that Craig could make not knowing about the Devour Flesh. With a haste creature, so.
All right, let's take a look at one of our other matches here as we see Jay has taken that first game versus Craig Wescoe. And there is a Ruination Worm that looks like it's getting into the red zone here. I'm not sure which match we're on. Peter Ingram on the top there versus Doug Tice. We're going to get life totals updated as quickly as we can for you guys because that's obviously critical to what's going on the board state right now, as there is a Ruination Worm battling in. A bunch of creatures that can block it, even some trades possible if he wants to put the Denrova Horror and the Knight in front of the Ruination Worm. Looks like that didn't happen though.
Huh. Ooh. That's risky. The volatile plays thinking about there.
What is he?
He has a volatile rig in hand. I like that card a lot.
I like that card too. I think it's fine, and it seems pretty sweet here. Even if it blows up the world, it will leave the Ruination Worm behind.
Yeah, but if he blocks the Ruination Worm and then tries to trade the horror for the volatile rig, then he can get into some trouble.
Yep.
He could lose a board that he's winning on. He'll lose a game where he's winning on board.
That's true. All right, there is a ping from Doug Tice with that Lobber Crew. And send it back to his draw step. It looks like he picked up a Cellar of Songbirds. He's got to punish the enemy in his hand as well.
Number 26 is ready to start. Please report to the meeting area. It's standard winner box number 26.
All right, so horror going to come in.
Yep, Denrova Horror rumbling in there. 4/4, one of the cooler creatures
If
in
I'm
this
Peter,
set.
I might just double block here.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I mean, if he has a trick to get both my guys, then that's a trick that's not going to interact with my worm. And getting the horror off the table, if you do it successfully, means that casting your volatile rig into this board is just awesome for you.
Okay.
So I don't know what the other card in Peter's hand is, but I might have just double blocked there. It's definitely an option.
All right, so Doug's going to cycle his Rakdos Cluestone. He's going to draw into another land here, it looks like. He's got a Sunspire Griffin in his hand. Yeah, he actually hit the mana to cast it, too. That was nice.
Yeah, pretty good.
And he does opt for the Griffin here. Now, Doug did not attack with that Knight. He's got he's facing down a potential first strike Disciple of the First Way, so that wasn't an option for him.
Yeah, Disciple of the Old Ways is quite a good card.
Good
I mean, it's
two-drop.
just a very solid bear, and being able to turn something into a first striker, just really, really good.
We see Doug chump block here on the Ruination Worm, and it looks like there's going to be a Rhino to follow up here. 3/4 with Hexproof. Another ping from Lobber Crew here.
And a Rumble Butt Rhino.
Yeah, no,
coming in there.
Doug's got he's got chump blocks. He's got a Cellar of
for
Songbirds in
days.
his hand too. So if he can manage to keep pressure on Peter. He can find a way to win this game even through that Ruination Worm, which is far and away the best creature on the battlefield at the moment.
I mean, if Doug swings with that horror again, I think that you kind of just want to triple block.
Okay.
But
he
maybe
does
not.
not.
I mean,
he
I guess
just sends in
there's-
the Sunspire Griffin this time.
Side event judges, PM shift, please come to the side event stage. Side event judges on the PM shift, please come to
And
the
there it is,
stage.
Seller of Songbirds.
Yeah.
For Doug Tice, he's going to get a 1/1 flying bird token as well. Unfortunately, he's played a bunch of mono-colored cards ever since the Lobber Crew came down, but
Yeah.
so it goes.
It is just how it goes sometimes.
And now all of a sudden that Denrova horse doing great blocking duty for the Robobolt Rhino. All right, well, looks like, speaking of blocking, Peter just found a blocker of his own with a Towering Indrik.
Yeah, and the Towering Indrik's going to do pretty nicely against the Sunspire Griffin.
So is there a point here where Doug does want to start, does he want to throw his three creatures in front of this worm and just hope that to get rid of it, or is it better for him to just chump every turn?
Yeah, I mean, throwing your three creatures in front of it is probably fine, because even if Peter has like a Giant Growth or a Rumblebolt Rhino, which would normally be a blowout, then I think Doug has Punish the Enemy in hand.
He
As
does.
his last card. So it wouldn't put him in the worst spot.
He could still finish off that worm.
Yeah, he could still finish it off.
Okay.
But then again, he's going to be left with no board, and then he's still facing down a pretty big board.
Yep, and here's a
Peter.
Murmuring Phantasm, but really the key card here, though, is that Towering Indrik is going to keep, I mean, right now, there, you know, Peter is going to drop to 9, and then he was going to take 3 in the air from the Griffin and from the Bird. And a couple of chump blocks later, he'd be dead. Now all of a sudden, there's really no great attacks here for Doug. And unfortunately, that Lobber Crew has a long way to go. Remember, the Punish the Enemy is going to do 3 damage to Peter as well. So if he could have attacked here for 3, dropped him down to 7, pinged him, that
Yeah,
puts
he
him
would've
to
been
6. He would have had
in
him dead the
dangerous
next
range.
turn.
Yeah.
Next turn he would have killed him. But instead, it looks like the Sunspire Griffin is just going to force the Towering Indrik to eat a Punish the Enemy, and that's exactly what happens. But that does mean that the 3 damage still gets to go through to Peter, so not too bad here. But it basically adds another turn thanks to that block, as Peter drops down to 6 here.
Yeah, and I mean, Lobber Crew is going to do work, but it can only go for so long before Ruination Worm just eats up the world.
Now, it is worth noting here, though, that Doug is at 10. I mean, he can just full-on take a hit from the Ruination Worm, and if
Yeah.
there's no tricks or burn, well, he'll be alive still. So he has Peter Ingram at a virtual 5 life here. That means that if he throws it in Rovahor in front of the Ruination Worm, he's one multicolored spell away from winning this game.
Yeah.
Jason won game 1 versus Craig Wescoe, as you can see in the middle there, and Tillman Bragg looks like he's picked up his first game against Max Tietze. So still in the early stages of this match.
We're going to have to see if this Abyss does what Peter had hoped it would. And I mean, it's an ideal situation here for the Worm. You know, you're attacking with it every turn. They're chump blocking it every single turn.
Yeah.
And yet, it still seems like he's barely keeping his head above water.
It does. I mean, that Lobber Crew is keeping things close, and that extra 3 damage from the Punishing Enemy is a big deal here. All right, I think he's going to cycle his Clue Stone.
I like that.
Yeah, he does exactly that. All right, draw a card. What did you get? An island to go along with the Guildgate and the Volatile Rig that you've had in your hand for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think he just comes with the Worm.
All right, it looks like he's going to send the team here.
I like that.
I like that too.
You kind of need to at this point.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, you get pinged down to 5, your opponent attacks you for 3 in the air, and then suddenly...
Then suddenly you're one multicolor spell away from being dead.
Exactly. It's
Yeah. Well, we're now there's actually he's gonna force the issue here and make some blocks happen. So the question here is, yeah. So it looks like the bird then has to jump in front of the worm, but that's not too bad here. He's only going to take 2 damage, and he gets to eat Disciple of the Old Ways if this is what happens.
I mean, it does mean that any multicolor spell no longer kills.
That's right, which is a big deal here. Now he could risk it, right?
Yeah, he could just take it.
He could block the way he's blocked, but leave the bird back and take 9, go to 1. If his opponent has any type of trick, pump spell, or anything, then he can get him. But all right, looks like he'd rather try to take out the Rubble Belt Rhino with the Dinrova Horror. But you got to consider that option, right? I mean, he's going to know how many multicolored spells he has in his hand, but it looks like if he doesn't win next turn, he's going to be in really bad shape.
Yeah.
Though with this particular block, not too bad.
It's a really good block.
It also puts him to 8, meaning that he can take 1 hit from the worm. He can block the other 2 creatures that come in. We're going to see if is Peter going to pull the trigger on that volatile rig. Is now the time.
At this point, you have to. Yeah.
There it is, volatile rig. So this could get interesting. There could be some coin flipping. There could be some damage happening here.
I really like this card a lot. We've talked about that a bit. I think you like the card also.
I do like it, but this is an interesting position for it because, look, Peter's at 6, and he's facing down a Lobber Crew. Lobber Crew is going to take him to 5 and then can take him to 4. So if if he gets attacked, doesn't die, and the thing and the volatile rig dies, and if Peter loses the flip, he's going to be dead, and it will not be a tie.
It might be a tie depending on how blocks go.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the thing is, now that he played the extra guy, if Doug doesn't have an extra creature this turn, if he loses if the flips go particularly,
it would be a tie. You're right.
It's going to be a tie.
You're
for the
right,
volatile
because
rig.
the 2 2/2s will get through if that is the case. But any creature for Doug Tice can change that.
Yes.
Players in
But I mean, otherwise, if you
considering
don't
an
do it,
attacker?
you're just
Wow.
that's risky business.
Did he forget to ping as well? Why is Peter still at 6?
I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, is the life total correct, Rusty? No, he's not. He was at 5, and now he's at 3. But he's just going to pass the turn back here.
Did I think Peter just drew a land here.
And he already had one in his hand, right?
Yeah.
He had is it Guildgate?
So now he's mounting and is at Gilgate.
So if he attacks with the whole team,
I think he has to.
Then Doug drops down to 4. He throws something in front of the worm and something in front of the rig. If he puts the horror in front of the rig, then they're flipping coins. And wow, and if he wins the flip, then Doug's going to win this game, right? Because he gets to ping him down to 2 and then attack him with the Sunspire Griffin. If he loses the flip, then they
so
tie.
the problem is that if Peter attacks with everything, then Doug can just block the worm and a 2/2 with his Lobber Crew and his Rover Harbor, take 6, and then he just wins. All he has to do is make his Lobber Crew win.
Yeah, because he can put the Lobber Crew in front. Because remember that he doesn't want that volatile rig to take damage.
Oh wow, no.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Peter just got a.
This is correct, right?
Oh yeah, I guess this is fine too.
Remember, because you can't have the volatile rig take damage. Because then they flip a coin and then it might die, and then they flip another coin and then it might get there. And now Doug Tice has lethal on the board with this block. So looks like Doug has crafted this board state quite nicely. And all he's got to do is turn his guy sideways, and that's going to be the game. And that's it. All right, so game 1 goes to Doug Tice. That was a really close game.
That was a really, really close game.
Yeah, there was a lot of very specific blocks that needed to happen to make sure that everything worked out. But Doug looks like he had a plan, and it worked.
He played it really well.
Yep. So he's going to pick up the first game in this match for his team. We could probably jump over to another match here. We've got. Looks like we've got Tillman Bragg versus Max Tietze on the bottom.
Yep. Max Tietze down a game right now.
He's down a game, but it looks like he's got a pretty nice board state, but he's facing down one of my favorite cards, Tristani Summoner. It looks like it was just cast last turn, probably.
I'm also a big fan of this card.
4
That card
4 3 3 2 2 1
also
1.
with Hold the Gates, surprisingly good.
Does he have Hold the Gates?
He does have Hold the Gates. I've played it before.
No.
I mean, think about Hold the Gates
no.
and Gateway Shade. He doesn't get it.
Rashad thinks I don't understand because I don't like Hold the Gates.
I mean, I'm not saying I like Hold the Gates, but I don't think it's unplayable.
Rashad likes Hold the Gates. I think it's unplayable. I mean, not in literally every situation. I'm using the term unplayable
like
to mean a card I never want to have to main deck.
There are a lot of situations where you want to main deck that card. When you have like 5 gates and you have like token production and a bunch of guys, and like you didn't pick up removal spells, like how does that card beatable?
That's a lot. I don't categorize that as a lot of situations.
Yeah, okay, but some
You've
situations
named a situation where you
wanna
might
play
want
that.
it.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't even know if I do.
Oh, I definitely do in that situation.
I don't know.
That's
But
insane.
it's okay here. He's got 1 guild gate, right?
I just need one team for a 2-headed giant draft.
But he's facing down a Jelen Sphinx, which looks like it has 2+1/+1 counters on it as well, and now an unblockable Rogue. And there's that Wolf Rider again. He keeps showing up.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm a big fan of the Wolf Rider.
Yeah.
Max continuing to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no blockers for the Flyer, and the Keymaster Rogue looks like it's going to eat Arrows of Justice here.
Yeah, I think a launch party may actually take out the Sphinx also.
Okay. He's got enough mana to do both. Okay, Keymaster Rogue down. And here comes the launch party. You just going to throw the Summoner at it? Yeah, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you lose your Jelen Sphinx. And you also lose 2 life. And all of a sudden, Max's board is down to just 1 creature.
Yeah, and that 1 creature, which would have interacted so favorably with his opponent's board, is just completely nullified because of Hold the Gates.
Yeah.
The powerful card from Gatecrash.
Oh, stop it. It wouldn't even interact that well.
It does.
He's got the Gateway Shade. He can make it like a 6/6.
Yeah, but now it has Vigilance, so he can attack with it every single turn.
Sure.
And then if it gets blocked, he can use his mana to pump it, and if it doesn't, he doesn't have to.
And he can just take 1.
Well, he
Alright,
can do
so
like however much he wants to with the mana he has available.
a Drudge Beetle and an Azorius Key Rune here. So Max does put some more stuff back on his board here, but it looks like Tillman Bragg's in a pretty nice situation here.
Does he have the Celestia Mace Runner? Yes.
He does. Amara Tandris here
Yeah.
means that all of his tokens don't take damage. It prevents all damage to the tokens. It's also a 5/7, by the way. In this case, it's a 5/8. Wow, so Tillman Bragg has really put forth an impressive board state here. Something like Supreme Verdict or something along those lines is the type of card that Max Tietze needs now to get himself out of this situation, it looks like, because there's going to be some attacks. Okay, it doesn't tap. And here comes the offensive. Even though Tillman's sitting at 10 life, he's going to send in with 1, 2, 3, 4 of his creatures. He's got that Gateway Shade, which can get pumped up to, let's see, so it's a 1, 2, and it can get +2/+2 and +1, so it can get +3/+3 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good here.
It looks really good on Tillman Bragg's side of the table. I mean, he just resolved back-to-back 7 drops.
Yeah.
He just spent
Of the
7 mana,
same-
7 mana, and 7 mana
Yeah.
in 3 consecutive turns. I got to say, it's definitely tough to beat that sequence. All right, here comes some blocks. It looks like Max wants to double block the Gateway Shade here while he has Tillman with only 3 activations available as
Yep.
opposed to the 6 that he does have on the table that he can use. But that does mean he takes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage here, which is half of his life total. But he's going to lose.
Yeah, so.
He just pumps once. I think he's just going to take out the Drudge Beetle here.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason Imperiale, you're a fan of his. He just won his match 2-0 versus Pro Tour champion Craig Wescoe.
A big dinosaur fan.
Yep. And here is an Avenging Arrow to take out the Rhino as well. So even though Max took 9 there, he made a favorable block for himself, and he was able to take out the 4/4 Trampler. There's a Bronze Beak Moa. Is that a
I believe that's Voice of Resurgence.
Voice of Resurgence as well. Great blocker.
Yes.
And I think can he play both? No, he only has one. Oh no, he's got the other white mana source with the Azorius Key Rune now, so he could play both if he wanted. I'm not sure what his third card is in hand.
It looks like a Crisis Incubation.
Is it?
Which is pretty impressive here.
He could lock down Amara Tandris. He just needs blockers here for the other guys because they're not going to be trading in combat.
Number 56, your event is firing.
Bronze Beak Moa. My favorite card to go with the Moa is Hussar Patrol.
Oh, yeah. Thoughts on Eyes in the Skies with Moa?
Ooh, also a very nice one.
Completely reasonable play. All right, there it is. Crisis Incubation is going to lock down Amara Tandris and prevent that attack from happening. That leaves him with just a 2/2 Vigilance Knight and the 3/3 Centaur. Now they are being pumped. They're being augmented by 2 different cards on board. One of them is Hold the Gates, give them both +1, +0, +1, and also Vigilance. Also, Amara Tandris is making them immune to damage.
Again, that's pretty good.
I would agree. Let's see what Max has in store for the rest of his mana this turn. Looks like it's.
I like that.
Oh, he's going to attack for 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's got blocks for the creatures, he can take the 3 damage here and not worry about it too much, and he can keep the clock going on Tillman here as he drops him down to 8.
I mean, he's only going to take 2 on the swing back. He's winning the race if he keeps getting in with that Key Rune.
Yeah.
He knows that the voice that's in his hand is going to represent just blocking forever.
Yeah. I like it. He
I like
needs
that
to
play
keep
a lot.
that pressure up for sure. It's tempting to play out the cards in your hand.
Well, the
but
other
he
thing
needs
is that
to
if
keep the
he's
pressure up.
able to draw a land on his next turn, then this puts him in lethal range to activate Key Rune, scavenge Drudge Beetle, and then attack twice.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And now he doesn't even need to draw the land this turn. He can draw it next turn because Tillman just went down to 6 using Toil.
All right, both are going to attack. We're going to block, and 2 damage comes into Max here.
Series standard pairings for round 2 are now posted. If your name is highlighted.
Okay, well, this could change things a bit here. Basilica Guards, and there's going to be a Call of the Conclave, which is yet another token creature for Amara Tandris to protect.
Yeah, so Tillman going to go back up to 7 here.
Yep, which is pretty important. The difference between 6 and 7 here is an entire turn. That looked like
he really
Mystic
wanted to draw that
Genesis.
when all that crazy stuff was happening.
Yes, he certainly did when his opponent was casting 7 mana bombs and removal spells and all that stuff. But it looks like he's going to just play the blocker game here.
Yeah, that's what he has to do.
With his sweet mythic rare. And he just has to pass the turn back. But this is interesting because there's just no way that Tillman can know about the Mystical Genesis.
Yeah, I mean, if Tillman draws like a big spell here.
Yeah, it could be good for Max. I mean, because the interesting thing is that, Max wanted to cast this guy to get it on the ground, and now he can't activate his Azorius Key Rune. He can look like, well, he just had to strand all of his mana. All right, so he doesn't, though. He does draw a second Guild Gate. Which I don't think is going to affect things currently. But here comes the team. So line up a couple of blocks, Max.
Block 2 centaurs.
Yep.
Pick up an elemental.
It's a 2/2. Can become a 3/3. And does Max just have to counter this? It's his last card in his opponent's
8.
hand.
I think so.
He needs a chump blocker, right?
You can't just like leave your mana open.
Yeah,
forever.
he's just got to use it. So there it is. Mystic
Gives you
Genesis.
a guy, keeps the guy off the opponent's side of the board.
Yeah, well, Max, that was the, yeah, there you go. That's the elemental from before. And then this is going to be the 2/2 ooze.
The ooze token.
Okay, and back to business here. I do believe, though, that is Tillman at 8? Did he pay for extort for the rat? He can still pay it even if it gets countered. So Tillman's at 8.
I suppose so. I mean, I think
Yeah, I'm just double checking. But
Max really needs to apply pressure. The problem is if Tillman draws a spell here, then the double key rune activation with Drudge Beetle is no longer a play.
that's right.
So I feel like he really wants to attack here. Then again, he's at 3. Maybe he just can't.
What he wants and what is available to him look like they might be completely different things.
Yeah, it looks like he just has to put enough stuff onto the table so that
they're going to use the dice to signify the power and toughness, though. Yeah, that's an elemental. And it happens to be a 3/3 right now, but that's subject to change based on which creatures Max casts and also if he activates his key rune. All right, so we see a Shamble Shark and then a Bronzebeak Moa. It's going to evolve the Shamble Shark. It's also going to make that elemental not a 3/3. This is why, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, 5/5, and potentially can become a 6/6 if he activates the key rune. And yeah, the key rune will be tapped, but it'll make that elemental bigger.
Yeah.
So pretty nice. I'm actually somewhat surprised he used the Shamble Shark with the Bronzebeak Moa to evolve the Shamble Shark when he could have
Flashed it in.
flashed it in and made the Moa big enough to block and survive.
Yeah. All right, a Tithe Drinker and an Extort trigger, and things are slowly slipping away here for Max. He's got a fairly stable board at the moment, but
Yeah, but unfortunately he's going to lose to any and every spell off the top of
that's right.
his opponent's deck.
What did he draw? Well, an Armored Wolf Rider number 2. It's going to get some Evolve trigger, an Evolve trigger on the Shamble Shark. It's also going to make that elemental a little bit bigger.
So any spell, good enough for Tillman here.
Even a 7-drop will do it, but it looks like he didn't hit one. All right, so it looks like Max has an attack here. With his key rune. But you can't figure that he's going to be able to last long enough here to actually finish a job. Does he have any shenanigans he can do with the Crisis Incubation? Return it, put it on his guy, return it. I just don't think he has enough mana to do what he needs to do here. It's another Guildgate off the top, so this is not a creature. So Max barely hanging in there, although I do have to say that Tithe Drinker has lifelink as well.
If Tillman draws another land, Max wins. Because this turn, Max can activate his key rune and scavenge the Drudge Beetle.
Okay.
So as long as he sees it.
Giving himself a chance here. No, he didn't do it.
He didn't see it. Yep.
And he just passes the turn. Yeah, he just missed that Drudge Beetle sitting there in his graveyard, and there it is.
Yep. I mean, it ended up not mattering, but
it ended up not mattering, but still,
you put yourself in that position to make it so that if your opponent draws a land that turn, like that game looked impossible for Max.
I mean, the quality of spells that were resolved.
There was a window of opportunity where if his opponent just drew a land, he could have won that game.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Which is just crazy to think about how skill-intensive Magic is. Think
Yeah.
about how hard it is.
Yeah.
So people are always like, oh, like I got unlucky, but
Yeah.
if you work hard enough.
I like the speech. I like it. All right, we've got a decider here in round 12. Jason Imperiale wins his match. Tillman Bragg wins his match. That leaves it between Doug Tice and Peter Ingram. Doug Tice up a game here on our top one, and he's got a Foundry champion on the battlefield facing down what looks to be a pretty big Towering Indrik. It's got 3 counters on it. It's a 5/7.
Yeah, unfortunately for Peter, I mean, that Foundry champion.
How much red mana does Doug Tice have? Just 2? Maybe
2.
3 there? So he can't make that Foundry champion too big. It's got 2 different pump abilities. You can pump its toughness with white mana, or you can pump its power with red mana. It also probably killed something when it entered the battlefield. But here is an activation, and wow, there's an Izzet Charm to take down the Golgari Key Rune. And that means that we have a chump block with the Foundry champion, but it's going to grow its toughness up to 6, maybe even more.
Yeah, so
it's
draw a red source. So Peter is still alive.
and he is
very
representing lethal, but that Foundry champion, he needs to get that thing out of the way. Why do you think he attacked there if his opponent could just pump the toughness enough to block anyway?
Well, he figured his opponent would activate the Key Rune, and then
He just wanted to get a chance to kill it?
Yeah, he needs to do that to free up his mana.
Okay. Ooh, Ogre Jailbreaker. There is a gate on board as well. Both players at 3 now. So this means that Doug can just simply chump block with his Ogre Jailbreaker and then crack back for the win if Peter has nothing.
I think Peter has a Scab Clan Giant, though, so Peter can just Scab Clan Giant, flip a coin for a win right now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Time in round number 12. Active
Oh, is that a...
players in your turn receive
No, that's
the
not.
additional
There it
5
is.
turns.
Scab Clan Giant, 6 mana. Let's flip a coin.
Do not have a judge.
If it hits this guy, you're probably dead. Now, we do know that Doug has 1 card in hand, but if it hits that guy, you're probably dead. If it doesn't, he can pump it and save it. But then he's also stable on board now.
Yeah, and then, I mean, if he doesn't hit that guy, then...
He just says go. It's 2. Does that count as a die roll? He dropped the dice.
Wait, I mean, Doug didn't...
Before the next draft.
Doug didn't pump the
Doug
guy.
didn't pump.
To the left-hand side
Yeah.
of the grand
You have to do it beforehand because after the thing resolves, that damage happens.
Yeah, it happened already.
Once again, if you would like to
Damage has already happened. I don't know which one was the 1, 2, 3 side of the dice, but it almost doesn't matter at this point.
left-hand side of the main
I mean, it's like Cabal Therapy. If you want to respond to Scab Clan Giant's ability, it deals it at random.
packs per player.
All right, they're trying to figure out what's happening here.
The ability resolves all at once.
They know that part, but they're trying to decide if the roll had already happened, basically. I think that there's some discrepancy on Doug's side about whether, like, if they had really determined which one was going to be which and given him a chance to react. So they're going to call a judge.
Okay.
I think you may have noticed that Peter was shaking the dice getting ready to roll it, and he dropped the dice. It wasn't a proper roll. So I don't know. I think that Doug...
I mean...
I think that Doug might have said, look, I haven't...
It wasn't
we
a
hadn't...
proper roll.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
they might have still been
I
talking,
understand.
you know. All right, let's let the players talk.
Oh, hey, look, that's a favorable outcome, so we're going to go up the roll. Like, I don't think you were rolling for the roll. I think it actually fell out of your hand. You're like, hey, that's a favorable outcome.
What if it was unfavorable? Would you have said anything?
Well, would you say anything?
No. The die hit the table. I was going like this and it dropped.
I think it fell out of your hand while I was having a conversation with the judge, and it resulted in what would have been a favorable outcome for you. But, like, I don't think that was, like, your official roll.
I don't think that Doug... So he's arguing that he didn't actually roll the dice, that he just dropped it, and that it didn't count as a roll, and that the reason that Peter's arguing for it to stay as the roll is because it was a favorable outcome for Peter. And he's
random.
And he's questioning whether Peter would have said, "Oh, I just dropped it. It wasn't my real roll." If it wasn't a favorable outcome.
You can't do that. Who does that? Okay.
I know. Easy. They're working it through. I'm just reporting what they're saying. I'm not giving any personal.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
So, either way, this Scab Clan Giant is probably winning the game for Peter because Doug didn't pump the Foundry Champion prior.
He did not
so
pump.
Either way, he's going to lose one of his two guys
right.
and then be forced to either chump block or just lose right now.
Right, and I think that whether he dropped it or not, he randomized the dice in his hand and it hit the table. That's a die roll, right? I mean.
Playing at the Paul Reed Soul.
Yeah.
And he did like even or odd, and he rolled the die. It was like that.
Oh, he got
and so like it ended where this one doesn't work. It was like a 12 sided or something. And it was like against the library.
So from what I've gathered, it doesn't.
Okay. Oh, so targets. So you roll and then it targets.
What the targeting pattern is. I've seen.
Okay.
Can you tell?
Okay, so
Rashad's
what Rashad
correct.
is saying is that when Scab Clan Giant enters the battlefield, even though it's all one ability and you don't choose, you put it on the stack and then you choose at random, and then once they see what the target is, they have an opportunity to respond. So.
But I was talking to him.
Okay, they've got a judge at the table now.
I understand that. While the die was rolled. Prior to that, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and had eye contact.
Well, forgetting eye contact not that necessarily. Like I couldn't imagine that he would roll the die while you and I were having a conversation with such a favorable outcome. I think that fell out of his hand while we were having a conversation. In which case, he only benefits from letting something like that happen and be like, oh hey, it's a favorable outcome, I roll it too. Or he'd be like, no, that wasn't really my roll.
Okay. So what I'm gonna say is, it doesn't seem like it was completely established what the random pattern was. You guys hadn't agreed on what the random pattern was. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish a random pattern, and we are going to randomize.
So what the judge is saying is that his ruling is that they hadn't quite established yet what was going to be rolled, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think he's going to make Peter Ingram re-roll here.
I'd be extremely surprised if Peter didn't appeal this. I would appeal it.
Yeah, I think that it will be a likely appeal. Peter's case is he's saying, look, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he says he made eye contact with Doug. He was getting the dice ready, and then it fell out of his hand. But I mean, that's a die roll. Like, you can't take that back, and that's what his side of it is. So, so we'll see. I mean, I've never actually been in a situation like this where does an accidental die roll count if it has all the components of a real die roll, which is it was randomized in his hand by shaking it and then dropped onto the table. So,
yeah, I mean,
Doug
anybody who's played Monopoly knows that if you're going to roll the dice and it falls out of your hand and gives you an unfavorable roll, you can't say take backs.
Right, and I think that's kind of what Doug is saying, is that this might have been that. All right, here's an appeal. Let's listen to the judge.
Makes my day long. So this is the second time that I've been at this table talking about Scab Clan Giant. We have Scab Clan Giant coming into play. We have a question about a random target selection that a pattern was established by you and a die was rolled by you without participation of your opponent. Is that correct?
No. I feel that my opponent did first.
Okay. And my understanding is that you believe that you were talking with the judge during the time that the pattern was established.
Yes, and especially when the roll took place. I mean, I was talking with the judge when the roll happened. If it was even a roll, I think it slipped from his hand.
Last thing is, floor judge ruling was that we're going to establish a new random pattern or the same random pattern and randomize.
Yeah. That was the last.
Okay. And that's the only thing that we're focused on right here is whether that's okay. So, what was the pattern that was established and what response did you?
Okay. I was looking at him and we had eye contact.
Sure.
I had said 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Then I began going like this.
Okay.
And I dropped out my hand.
Okay. Did you get a response to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Can we check the cameras?
No, we can't go back.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I would like to believe he said okay.
Okay. What
I
you
know.
would,
I know.
What you would like to believe, obviously, is
honestly,
not going to come in.
But I think that then I'd have to say that I think he recognized it. I definitely think that he recognized it.
Recognition and consent is a different thing.
Okay.
So we're going to establish a new randomize, and we're going to randomize again, and we'll continue from there. All right?
All right, so you guys heard the judge's ruling there. They are going to re-roll this thing.
We'll play out the rest of the time starting once we
Are
determine.
you going to establish the random pattern or not?
I am perfectly fine with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we need to roll the die.
And my question was, I just want to verify. My question was that if the target happens first, then I can still respond to it.
Yes, the target's established when the ability goes onto the stack.
Okay, what is the pattern? 1, 2, 3. I'm acknowledging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
I can't see what he rolls. All right, it looks like it hit it anyway, and he's going to win the game. Dice don't lie.
Arrows
All right.
of justice.
So, so that was a lot. So what the crux of that argument was. So what happened here, by the way, in a bigger picture, is Peter Ingram just equalized. Now their match is going to decide the whole team match here, as they're tied up. Jason Imperiale up 2 games to 0 versus Craig Wescoe. Tillman Bragg 2 games to 0 over Max Tietze. So that was a really important die roll. Now, what the discussion centered around was there an established pattern? And Peter's side of it was, look, I looked him in the eye and I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for each of the 2 things. So in his mind, they had established that. And the judge ruling was that they had not fully established it. So what ended up happening was Peter said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Doug said, I acknowledge this.
See,
So
I
we
don't
got
like
very
precedent being
procedural
set
there.
like this, because when you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a Scab Clan Giant, and then you roll the dice, and the dice comes out, and it's in favor of you and not your opponent, and your opponent can be like, I didn't acknowledge what the random numbers were.
It is
then
a dangerous
you just have
territory.
to re-roll it.
Right.
Like that's a bad precedent to set, in my opinion. But
well,
I mean,
and it's interesting, and I certainly value your opinion on this stuff. You've been playing for a long time, and you have a good eye for things. It's an interesting situation because this is one of those times where it's not entirely clear to the judge exactly at what point happened, because the way the sequencing went was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they looked, and according to Peter, he looked at him in the eye, so that was enough for him to do it. But then Doug wanted to ask the judge a question about when he needed to pump his Foundry Champion. He was fully aware of the targeting thing and needed to know, do I need to do it now or ahead of time?
Okay.
So he looked at the judge, and while he looked at the judge, Peter's rolling the die, accidentally drops it and says, hey man, look,
I didn't know
rolled
about
it too.
that. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So, yeah, that is more.
Is
because
it? It doesn't change anything for me. I mean,
really, I think.
Look,
it does
if you
change
look
something
away from the
because
table while I roll the dice, that doesn't mean you get to say, "Hey, can you re-roll that dice?" I'm not particularly fond of the outcome of it.
Yeah, I mean, but if he was like, he didn't look like he was trying to stop his opponent from rolling the dice either, though. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Did he think of it? Maybe he thought about it afterward. I don't know. So.
All right. Well, it looks like we're off to the races here, though. We are going to get a game 3 in this match, so let's see what happens here.
Yeah, it's time. So.
Okay. We're told by Rusty that they've got 6 minutes to finish, too, so we're probably going to see some pretty quick play here from both players, and a Drudge Beetle into an empty board here for Peter Ingram. Doug Tice is going to hit his 3-drop, though. It's Seller of Songbirds. 3 colors off the top here. Natural.
Yeah, Seller of Songbirds
Peter Ingram.
interacts pretty favorably against 2/2s.
And there's a Zertod Druid on turn 2, and yeah, it looks like Peter says, I'm not going to trade off my Drudge Beetle for your bird token.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Nope. There's a Sunspire Gatekeepers in hand, though there's no gates in play, so it's not going to get the token, but it is a 2/4, which is going to be able to attack at least into the board as it sits.
Definitely. And I mean, you want to close this game quickly, so putting damage on the board is important.
Speaking of closing the game quickly, a 5-drop on turn 4, plus a damage from the Zertod Druid for Peter Ingram. The Long Legs of the Law. Golgari Long Legs as a 5/4 vanilla creature, but it's going to do quite nicely on this board, facing down a 2/4, a 1/2, and a 1/1. Here is the first guild gate of the game for Doug Tice. What does he have to help equalize the board here, though? Well, he's got a really nice one.
Yeah, Stab Wound is a
He's
very
got a
nice
stab
card here.
wound. It's going to turn that thing into a 3-2. He's also going to take a damage off the bird and another 2 off of the stab wound. And there's that Scab Clan Giant, the boogeyman.
Oh, I like this.
I'm assuming we're going to see the Scab Clan Giant. Here we do. You take one, and now how about we establish a pattern?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like that.
And there's a die roll, and at 6 it's going to take out the bird token. Not too bad, though. I think taking out the Sunspire Gatekeepers would have been more desirable, but as it is, Golgari Longlegs is just getting in there anyway. Sure,
yeah.
if Doug wanted, he could just block it, but he doesn't want to. He wants to make sure that that damage keeps flowing, so it's going to be 3 damage for 2 damage for the foreseeable future. Let's see what Doug has to add to his board here.
Yeah, now that Peter
he
can start attacking with long legs and Scab Clan Giant, it's definitely going to change the math.
All right, he's going to ship the turn back, though. 2 damage from the Golgari Longlegs. And here come the attacks. Clowns have been sent in. I see that there's a block incoming because no damage this turn, as Launch Party is going to launch Seller of Songbirds, take down that Scab Clan Giant. There's also a chump block with that same card in front of the Golgari Longlegs, so no damage for Doug Tice this turn. And he has got 2 2-drops here. Wow, he is completely curved out. He's got 1 card left in his hand. Rubble Belt Rhino followed up by a Frilled Oculus and Pump Mana available, so things looking pretty good for Peter Ingram.
Yeah, very nice.
Doug Tice needs something to get this board back to stable, and a Key Rune is not it. I think he might have a Putrefy in his hand, though. He does have mana for it as well. Trigger on your upkeep takes you down to 10, Peter Ingram. He draws his card for the turn. I couldn't quite see what it was.
Neither could I. All right, so.
And I think we're just going to see the clowns come in. Here they are, all of them. Attack, 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 attack. Drudge Beetle is going to get blocked by Sunscar Gatekeepers. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 potential damage here coming in at Doug Tice, though. If we see a pump, are we going to see that? I believe he had a Putrefy. He's not going to pump it. That means that Doug does not have the chance to use the Putrefy here, as he's... Oh, he is going to do it. So he's just going to use the Putrefy, but no pump. So it looks like Peter's not going to fall for that trick. He smelled a rat there. Or maybe he's just got a 6-drop in his hand. Yeah, the Drudge Beetle dies as well. He does, and wow, Ruination Worm is a 7/6 to keep that huge pressure incoming.
Yeah, and with that Zertod Druid now, that worm needs to get blocked every single turn.
It is lethal. Zertod Druid has not been used yet this turn, and Peter Ingram has been able to come out to a blazing start here. All right, so I see I think it's a Hands of Binding. Is that what that is?
It is.
Hands of Binding the worm. And he looks like he's going to attack to try to get that other trigger, but we're going to see a chump and a hit. So down to 7. There's 6 damage on board right now.
Plus
for Peter
the Drudge
Ingram.
Beetle in the graveyard, and that's
and
it.
a Drudge Beetle in the graveyard would be lethal if Doug Tice has nothing else. Go down to 8. Let's see if Peter remembers his Drudge Beetle. Max forgot it, although it didn't end up mattering. No, he did not. Drudge Beetles are hiding safely. And he's playing very quickly, and it looks like he got a little sloppy perhaps. I don't know. There is 3 mana up. He could have been playing around something and said, I'm just going to finish him off next turn, because he gets to play Goblin Ooze there, and it puts him in a great position this turn. Maybe he just didn't want to move all in on one creature there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely could have resolved the Beetle. It could have hit the Rubble Belt Rhino for sure, but the Golgari Longlegs could have died. All right, time was called in the round, but it doesn't look like it's going to be needed here, as Peter Ingram has asserted his board presence in a big way every single turn. And he's got his opponent down to 1 and absolutely reeling here. All right, I think we're going to see an Opal Lake Gatekeepers and maybe a Centaur Healer.
That wouldn't be too bad.
Wouldn't be too bad. It could make Peter Ingram regret the Drudge Beetle, but let's see what happens here. You never know. He's drawn a card. He does have a Centaur Healer in his hand and the mana to cast it, and here it comes. Centaur Healer bumping him back up to 4. This is going to put Peter Ingram down to 6, but he's got that Ruination Worm back now. Still not going to use the Drudge Beetle. Oh, he really should, because it would make one of his non-4 power creatures lethal, but he doesn't do it. He's just going to attack with the whole team here.
And I mean, these are the really tense situations.
Loneliest Drudge Beetle ever. All right, so here's a block. That's a safe block there. Another safe block, and then a chump block, and then see, it's only 3 coming through here.
Super Series Seal.
Oh man.
Players in the Super Series Seal. We have received the last slip for round 2. Pairings will be coming out as soon as possible. Thanks for your patience.
Now there's some discussion among the teammates here that you can hear about which way to block. Now Peter does have 2 cards in hand, so any trick would do it here as well. You take 3, you go to 1. But he's got 2 creatures to follow up, although I believe one is an Ember Beast. So if Doug can find a way to get rid of that disciple of the old ways, he can attack, lock down a worm. I just don't think he quite has enough here, though.
Yeah, because then the ooze can always just sacrifice the stab wound.
He's drawn another blocker in the form of a Lobber Crew, and is that a Tide Drinker? What was that other card? Oh, it's a Foundry Champion.
Ooh, wow.
Is that enough? No, it is not quite enough. He can get him to 1. Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness, this game.
Right?
This match. This is going to be turn 5, right?
He can get him to 2. Do you know what turn we're on,
turn 5?
Rusty?
Attention Grand Prix teams.
Oh, man.
We are still taking drops up here if you'd like to opt out of the next.
So here's a Foundry Champion. It's going to do 3 damage to something. So he takes out the Disciple of the Old Ways with it, which means that there's no more blocker. And isn't the stab wound going to finish him?
Well, no, because he can sacrifice the Golgari Longlegs to his.
Oh, he has a green
ooze.
mana up. Okay, yep,
Yeah.
you're right.
Side events going on. There's great opportunities to jump into some things over
All right,
there.
so if they're in turns here, they need to take this a little slower. They've missed a few onboard things here, and right now Peter still can take this game down, but he is in a touchy board state. He's going to have 4 creatures versus 3, and his opponent at 1, though. Although the Hands of Binding can lock down a creature as well.
Jake Gagnon, your event is ready to fire.
Wow, this has been an intense game. Both of them are going to attack. No blocks available.
So he goes to 2.
We're still looking for
Make sure you sacrifice the Longlegs to the
Hey,
ooze
did he
before
not
your
use the
turn.
Hands of Binding?
Masters number 8 is ready to fire. Please meet your judge over by the side event.
I didn't see him target anything with it. Yeah, he didn't target anything with it, and that's going to be the game. Peter Ingram can just attack and win the game. Wow.
Jeez.
Take a deep